and I'd like to express this idea through the item policy and morality in secularized world. And maybe it's a text. And I'd like to say, first of all, good morning, dear colleagues, and thanks Romanian colleagues, dear Dr. Ioan Dura, for invitation to come here, and honor to be here with you and pleasure to communicate. Last time I had honor to speak here about unity of different spiritual traditions that appeared in the Axial Age. Now shall we examine correlations between morality and policy in a secularized world. My atom is represented in the question, what can give traditional values and ethics for a secular society? And I'd like to speak in some kind of provocative manner in order we have questions and discussion. I can answer to this question in one word, a lot of, and then try to explain and improve it. I deeply believe and try to show now that the spiritual and ethical potential of traditional values, which embodies first of all in world religions, is not wasted. More of it, mankind can survive only on the basis of these common and human values, because humanity doesn't have other absolute values. And a person and a nation can't live without ones. All people are believers. Dostoevsky said, and many other thinkers said about it, that all people are believers, but they have only different objects of their faith. And if a person doesn't believe to one God as an absolute, he believes to any idol, because the same place can't be empty. That's why Dostoevsky named persons who calls themselves atheists idolaters. So secularized society, from this point of view, is the society of idolatry, pagan society. How did it happen? Absolute was dismissed, and on its place was put something other, pleasures, leaders, conceptions, etc. In European culture, it is a person, as he is, with all his sins. So from time of Renaissance, we have not a secular society in true sense, but a religion of human godness. This is a concept that was elaborated in Russian philosophy, from Vladimir Solovyov till Berdyaev and Frank, that it is not atheism and secular society, but this is a society of new handmade religion, and this religion is human goodness, in opposition to God-human religion, Christianity. So it violated the first two Bible commandments, not to create an idol for yourself. God died, more correctly to say, was killed in Western culture. But this is the basis of this culture. So we are watching now the process of self-suicide, self-killing of this civilization that can go for centuries and have a great danger for all humankind. For example, it is secularized European society that launched two devastating world wars and created totalitarian regimes with ideologies which apologized them. These ideologies absolutely contradict Christianity. The last based on eschatological metaphysical idea that it is impossible to build Christendom on the earth. Secularized consciousness builds social utopias, and any utopia tends to violence and totalitarianism in social practice. And as the consequence of it, we remember the so-called humanitarian bombing when 16 NATO European countries bombed one independent country in the center of Europe named Yugoslavia. And now from that time we have much more bloody examples. I don't mention all of them, we don't have time for it. Is it a way to solve complicated social problems? And where are humanistic politicians, progressive journalists, and liberal lawyers? What are they doing? What are philosophers? There is no Mahatma Gandhi in the world and no Martin Luther King, and there is nobody to speak about these problems. The most catastrophic is that people in so-called secular society loses difference between good and evil, even criteria of their division. Morality can be based only on transcendent metaphysical background, but it is destroyed in a secular society. By such philosophy as naturalism, materialism, positivism, pragmatism, and so on, and postmodernism, where proclaimed that truth doesn't exist at all. Unfortunately, this philosophy does not criticize, but apologizes this way of things. World wars and totalitarian regimes appeared not because of Christianity, as we had yesterday. I wasn't agree with that talk absolutely, but didn't have time to speak it. Now I'd like to express that I couldn't agree what was said, because totalitarian regimes appeared not because of Christianity, but against Christianity. In each kind of totalitarian regime, any world religion must be killed or suppressed. And it is interesting, the biggest religion enemy now in Russia, for example, are liberals. 100 years ago, this enemy were Bolsheviks. So modern liberalists like Bolsheviks 100 years ago. It's very interesting to see. Politics is commonly considered to be outside morality nowadays. Many notable politicians, lawyers, and even philosophers try to convince us that this is true. Still, this persuasion has failed to justify itself in both theoretical and practical aspects. Politics is inconceivable without morality, as it transforms into something else when outside it. Isaiah Berlin has understood it perfectly, as he considered that political theory is a branch of moral philosophy, which starts from applying moral categories to political relations. Niccolo Machiavelli is a key figure in the context of analyzing the issue of the interrelation between politics and morality, as his works represent a sort of division line between the classical Plato and Aristotle and medieval political thought on the one hand, and new European and modern ones on the other hand. Through the prism of his ideas, the issue of the correlation between politics and morality within the history of political philosophy may be considered. Machiavelli is regarded as the first political thinker of the new secularized epoch, as he has broken off from all the preceding tradition of political philosophy. He has compared his achievements with the acts of such people as Columbus, claiming that he has opened a new continent of morality. The only question is whether this continent is suitable for human to dwell in, Leo Strauss wrote. Machiavelli's thesis may be formulated as follows: a good political end justifies all the means. Thus, Machiavelli writes about a political figure as follows: let his actions be blamed if they are justified by their results, and he will always be justified if the results turn out to be good. This thesis should be understood correctly, as it is not developed for merely justifying violence. To Machiavelli, public welfare has always been the goal. A political leader should avoid deviating from good if possible, yet be able to tread the path of evil if necessary. But we can't say that the position of Machiavelli is humanistic in spite of it. This evil committed for the sake of good has been perfectly described by Dostoevsky in his novel Crime and Punishment. Raskolnikov's ideas driving him to murder are based on the supposition that the end justifies the means. Dostoevsky took the plot lines of his books from real life, which supplied them abundantly. Dostoevsky has noticed the danger of socialist doctrines spreading in Russia earlier than the others. He has evidently demonstrated that they are based on an essentially atheistic principle of self-assertion of an autonomous personality who is convinced that the existent public order may be and should be reconstructed by means of science, even if it implies resorting to violence. Also, Dostoevsky was maybe the first who so deeply criticized the liberal ideology that is now ruling all over the world. Machiavelli seems to consider that violence for the sake of good is necessary for the citizens' welfare. However, according to Machiavelli, politics cannot be separated from morality. It is completely absorbed by it. There is no sphere independent from politics. Politics is already moral according to its mere definition. Another, non-political morality, only hampers implementing political objectives and therefore should be abolished, or attending to it is not so necessary. Morality becomes a technical tool for a politician. It gets deprived of its essential and universal features. However, if morality is incorporated into politics, it cannot be autonomous, self-sufficient. It loses the opportunity to influence politics and humanize it. This is how the existent things enslave the things that should be. Besides, if virtue exists for the sake of the state and only within its framework, the political problem becomes a technical one, forcing people to be virtuous. There is also a reorientation in the opinions regarding human nature. Man is no longer regarded as a divine creation, perfect in its essence, but is seen as a selfish creature, often ungrateful and therefore requiring strict treatment, more than kindness, love and even hurt. Machiavelli has given up the traditional metaphysical position according to which the nature of man was regarded as divine and good. In this aspect, he is a pioneer of a new tradition that defines the Western European sociology, which regards human nature as selfish. Thomas Hobbes wrote about. All the aspects discussed above have led to reframing the essence of morality and its place in society. According to Machiavelli, morality is possible only within a context that cannot be created by God. A byproduct of this thread of an argument is opening the way not only to liberal democracy, but yet also totalitarianism, dictatorship, and the ideology of the state dominating over the individual, as paradoxically noted by Leo Strauss. This logic has been most clearly demonstrated in the works by Rousseau, who defends the ideals of personal liberty and republican power, which could be distorted and transformed into the Jacobin terror on behalf of the people during the Great French and then the Bolshevik Revolution in reality. Machiavelli treats the good as general purposes for all the communities: freedom from foreign rule, stability and rule of law, prosperity, etc. Only this purpose makes actions virtuous. A thing that contributes to reaching this objective is good. This end justifies any means. Virtue is restricted to its civil aspect here. Machiavelli has supposed that one has to shift the emphasis from the moral nature of virtue to public institutions, created a strictly governed republic, taking ancient Rome as a model. In this case, the main virtue is craving for glory, through which self-interest contributes to the improvement of society. Justice shall arise only when justice becomes unprofitable. Leo Strauss mentions that Machiavelli develops a doctrine which pays full tribute to all the eventual requirements of the policy of blood and steel, and is the most favorable to political freedom and the rule of law alongside with that. The modification of the understanding of morality became impossible due to the change of epochs. The transition from the medieval concept of the inviolability of the eternal moral truths emanating from a transcendent source to a pantheistic and actually pagan worldview, where the relentless fate fortune acts. Hence, Machiavelli's virtue, as Garfunkel explains, this is no longer medieval virtue, yet it is not a collection of moral qualities either. This is a power and the ability to act, a combination of activity, will, energy, and desire to succeed, to achieve this goal, free from moral and religious strength rating. The very concept of good beings to be thought of in a humanist manner. That is, it has started being regarded as a benefit. Thus, benefit is substantiated for the good. A useful thing is good. The benefit is regarded not in a metaphysical, but in an increasingly hedonistic way. As a result, the good can degenerate into selfishness. According to Machiavelli, society is an arena where passions struggle. This is why he not only accepts violence, yet derives general welfare from it. All modern sociology and political science are based on this thesis. The possibility of socialization, selfishness. The system of social relations and the political system are conceived as a mechanism of deterring the selfishness instincts of man, their sublimation. Machiavelli's position was shared by Russian populists in 19th century and democratic revolutionaries, whose methods were indirectly supported by liberals in Russia in the 19th and the early 20th century. The idea of violence as a method of solving the most complicated social problems spread throughout the entire educated society, which resulted in throwing the nation into the bloodbath of revolution and civil war. The thesis of Machiavellianism, which is actually a refutation of Machiavelli, reads, the end justifies any means. I'd like to say that we have to divide the position of Machiavelli and the position of so-called Machiavellianism. So Machiavelli has a good aim, but in Machiavellianism there is no any good aim. Only we have to reach our aim by any means. Garfunkel writes that the correlation between the actual teachings of Machiavelli and Machiavellianism is rather complicated, because having formulated the principle that the means used by a political are to be justified by his ends, he provides an opportunity of a rather arbitrary interpretation of the correlation between the ends and the means of a political action. Whereas according to Nikolai Berdyaev, Machiavellianism is not a special trend of Renaissance politics, but it is the essence of the politics recognized and autonomous and free from any moral constraints. Examples of this so-called politics have been provided by Hitler and Stalin. And another Russian philosopher, Ivan Ilyin, mentions about it. A more appropriate thesis may be applied to misanthropic, slaughterous despots, resisting good with violence or destroying good with violence. There are some adepts of Machiavelli who drop a single definition in his statement. The word good. And my time, yeah. And now I won't read all the text, and I would like to reproduce conclusions from all the text. The violent Machiavellian, Hegelian, Marxist, and liberal Bolshevik methodology of solving social problems, we can see that extreme right wing joined the extreme left wing, for example, in Russian political activity, must be replaced by a truly humanistic, democratic one. Not in the sense of democracy as the ideology of usurpation and holding power, but in the sense of the rule of the people, which is focused not upon the spirits of history, Hegel, the national state, Machiavelli, antagonistic classes, Marx, nation above all, Nazism, yet on the fragile human personality, more valuable than any ideology, be it Marxist, Bolshevik, or liberal democratic, in so-called, whose anger is unjust as it is cruel, wrote the states. The new political theory based on the well-neglected principles of the axial age, world religions, and true humanity should be an existential personal one. The most appropriate and effective way for this purpose is the assertion of priority of moral values, especially non-violence, in domestic and foreign policy. This is exactly the policy of spiritual traditions of humanity. Its best minds have thought to promote. Developing and spreading a culture of active and efficient, not pacific disarming, non-violence, capable of resisting the evil and violence without resorting to their own methods, is necessary. Morality requires protecting those insulted and humiliated, neutralizing aggressive intentions. Non-violent moral politics should not indulge in extreme violence or extreme pacifism, which denies resisting violence and evil. Moral politics should be life-affirming, able to assert the truth of its principles, both theoretically and practically. Mankind will only reach the level required for survival in the modern era when it recognizes, not in words but in deeds, the highest value of human life, each individual human life. And when the great humanistic principle formulated by Immanuel Kant and starting that man is the goal and can never serve as a means is implemented. A person cannot be sacrificed to any interests or ideologies, yet he may perceive himself as a sacrifice of love and kindness, if the person chooses serving the others. The universal values of non-violence mankind developed in various cultures. For example, Taoism, so-called naturalness, in Hinduism, ahimsa, in Christianity, not to kill, in Islam, Allah is perceived as compassionate and merciful, have to be recognized, and man should proceed from them. The common good is unattainable otherwise. Rejecting these principles of the axial age implies returning to some pre-civilized state of barbarism, which is now seen in international politics where the cult of violence exists. In the early 20th century, a number of Russian thinkers warned of a real threat to be endorsement of totalitarian ideology, including its stabilization in the West. The deep crisis of the European Atlantic democracies. Berdyaev, Frank, Fedotov, Ilyin wrote about it. In the end of the previous century, Alexander Zinoviev spoke about so-called totalitarian democracy and totalitarian liberalism, whose essential features have to be explored yet, but which was already triumphant at that moment. Thank you.